Yo, Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, live from the Dyrud Dojo here in beautiful USC's campus as they wrap up spring practice number 3. First padded practice of the spring, so the vibes are always high when the pads get put on. You can hear them popping. The players are excited. The coaches are excited. It's the first action to play some actual real football and not just essentially track and field with a ball. So, immaculate vibes out here at USC. A beautiful day in Southern California, and happy as always to be here with you. Shout out to our friends. USC LAFB is brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure to check out FanDuel, one of the best sports books out there today. Jaden Mayava, plus 2,700 to win the Heisman. 12th best odds. I'm just saying, take with that with what you want. But some news and notes coming out of practice today. We didn't get to view a ton. Not that we, usually it's as always it's individual drills and stretching and whatnot. But some days are a little longer than others based on the practice script. Today being the first padded practice, there was a lot more team organized drills. So we were able to see a little bit less than usual. So not a ton to kind of gather from the individual drills like I've been able to do the previous 2 days. But some other stuff to come out, some recruiting, some recruits on campus, plus some kind of injury clarity, if you will, from Lincoln Riley after practice. So let's start with that. Talked to Lincoln Riley after practice and gave a couple updates. We already know the 6 guys that are going to miss virtually all of spring camp or be extremely limited if they are able to come back. But some updates on Jakeem Stewart, on Elijah Page, and kind of what their availability will look like for the rest of this spring. So Jakeem Stewart has practiced. He was in pads today. He has been limited. We know now after a year of Jakeem Stewart that he is one tough SOB, as all these guys are, but he is going to push through probably when you shouldn't, maybe. Or I'm not saying you shouldn't, but when, it's advised not to. Maybe, take a rehab day, take this. We know that he pushes through that and is going to give it his all no matter what. So he was out there in pads today at a limited capacity, but still playing, even though he's not 100%. Coach Riley said that the hope and the plan is for him to be a full go, no limitations after spring break. So remember, we get this week was the first week of spring practice. We get all of next week, 3 practices we will be at plus pro day, which obviously isn't for the current team. And then it's spring break. So then a little break in the action, and then they all come back after that. So the plan is basically 2 weeks from now for him to be a full go from his offseason surgery on his broken foot that he played on all of last season. So great to hear he's fully on schedule. No concerns there. Still practicing as much as he can in some capacity. Elijah Page also has been limited, has been practicing, has been in pads, or I should say prior to today, helmet and shells, and then today in pads, or helmet and leg pads. And then Riley said he is a little bit closer than Jakeem. So the hope is that he will be full go before spring break. So that would be next week. Now, if not, obviously you get the full extra week of rest. So I don't think there's any concern that he'll be back as a full 100% participant after the spring break. So those two kind of updates there on that. When you talk about the offensive line, I mentioned, previously, hey, with Killeen O'Connor basically out missing all of spring and Justin Tawanu'u, that was going to give a ton of opportunity for some of these younger offensive linemen and just guys returning from last year who didn't see a lot of playing time. Well, with Elijah Page being limited for the first essentially 2 weeks, and Coach Riley told us today that Tobias Raymond has been a little nicked up, nothing concerning, but he's been a little bit limited. Yeah, you're returning 5 starters, but theoretically through most of spring, only one of them is playing, and that's Alani Noah. So, and I think Tobias Raymond is playing a lot more than the others, but still a little bit limited. So it is a huge opportunity for some of these offensive linemen to get a lot of valuable reps. Again, some returning, but some freshmen and really early on in their college careers, and can seize that opportunity. And when your guys like, Tobias Raymond, Elijah Page, I don't think have any risk of really losing their job. I'm not going to say that it's fully shut and door or shut door case, but I think they're pretty much locked in. But a guy like a Justin Tawanuu, guy like Killian O'Connor, like those are positions that if a freshman or someone steps up and balls out, like they might not give that job back up. If a guy like a Brett Kolajay, if a guy like a Kenai Pepe really comes, even a Elijah Vicona or Aaron Dunn returning from last year, if they really step up in that right tackle spot, like they could seize that job and not ever relinquish it. So huge opportunity for those guys getting a lot of extra reps and a really good competition in that room. And it's a really good spot for USC to be in. You know, Riley even said it's probably the best the position group, or at least the continuity of the group, has ever been in his coaching career, period. I mean, when you return all five starters, and yet the talent that's coming in is so good that those five starters aren't even guaranteed to be your five starters. That's a really good spot to be in because you have the continuity of who was there, even though they rarely played together last year because of injury. But you also have a ton of iron sharpens iron mentality pushing each other to kind of seize those roles. So I think the offensive line is in the best spot it has been. I mean, for sure the Lincoln Riley era, and I would say going previous of even the Clay Helton era, like previous to the Clay Helton era. Now, obviously, there were some great singular offensive linemen during those times, but as a collective room, I mean, this is one of the strongest rooms we have seen at USC in a long, long time. And because of the way it's been built with now this 25 and 26 class, it should be like that for the foreseeable future, especially some of the guys are looking at getting in this 27 class as well. So it should just be gone are the days of concerns of the offensive line, I think. As long as things progress and continue out on the trend they're on, things are looking good. So huge opportunity there for those guys. Jakeem Stewart, defensive line unit, there's always opportunity anyway. He's not missing a ton, but that will be some reps going to some of the other guys while he's still limited until after that spring break gets back. So that's kind of your injury clarity update there. In terms of just kind of practice, you know, really the only note that I have is, you know, and I've talked about him before, but I think Mike Ekeler, just an unbelievable hire. And I said even on an episode that I think, you know, this is not saying the Gary Patterson hire isn't absolutely extremely important as he's the defensive coordinator and the mastermind of the defense. But I kind of said, like, I think the Mike Ekeler hire might actually have a bigger effect. And my reason for that was like, hey, for one, it's a true special teams coordinator this team hasn't had really. For two, you know, he brings a tenacity to the linebacking room that is something that is definitely needed. But we're seeing it now unfold before our eyes at practice, and just his coaching style, his leadership to the special teams, his demonstration and teaching ability, and then spilling over into the linebacker room, obviously. But then that spills over to the entire team and the culture and the identity of the team. And Coach Riley talked about that afterwards is like, hey, when great coaches don't just have an effect on their position group, they have an effect on the entire roster and the entire team. And when you can have that ability, as I think a lot of these coaches do, that just is going to make your program that much better instead of, you know, having these little subsects and cliques, if you will. Not saying there was like that in the past, but you can certainly feel it from Coach Eckler that he is just a a larger than life, if you will, personality and what he's able to bring to this USC program. So Mike Eckler just showing out. I mentioned him, mentioned Paul Gonzalez as my two guys of like, whoa, okay, we were excited about these hires when they happened, but now seeing it in full effect, you can certainly see the value they're going to bring to this program moving forward. In terms of recruiting, Danny Lang, I already talked about last night. He was here again today. There is talk he will be back again tomorrow. Third time in the first week of spring practice. Priority recruit Danny Lang going to be on campus, visiting with coaches, seeing practice. And it's starting to get that vibe. I'm not saying this is going to happen, haven't heard this, but it's getting that vibe that a commitment announcement or a decision, we should say, is certainly feeling like going to happen before July 2nd. Like with all the momentum right now and him now being here the third time in a week, it's hard to imagine him making it all the way to July 2nd in waiting to make that decision. Now, again, if he really wants to take those visits and see everything that there's to offer, totally get that. And he should do that. That's why you enjoy this process 1000%. And if he's still like a little bit like, hey, I love it here, but I would like to see a little bit more of what's out there and go see Oregon one more time, go see Iowa State. Like, absolutely, you can see that and respect that. But the momentum is starting to feel palpable that it's just like, you know what, let's just get this done. Let's just move on. Let's button it up, cross our T's, dot our I's, and become a Trojan. Again, I'm not putting a prediction necessarily, but I feel like the momentum is rising there with Danny Lang, which obviously USC is in full 100% pursuit of locking him in for their second corner of this 2027 class. So we'll see how that progresses, but he was here today, should be back again this weekend, is the chatter as well. Offensive lineman, Oregon commit, plays right here, high school ball here in SoCal. Drew Fielder was also on campus today. I believe that was a surprise visit. I don't think I talked about him last night. I'm trying to remember all the names I'm going through, but I don't think he was on my list of guys that I'd heard were coming to campus. So I think that was a surprise visitor this morning. I did a video on him last week, I believe, and his recruitment with USC has kind of picked up more recently. Obviously, he's committed to Oregon, so there was definitely probably a period there where it was not, it was very fairly quiet, but seems like it's picked up a lot with USC, and it certainly tells that story with him being here on campus today. So we'll see how that progresses, but USC clearly emphasizing him in their recruitment and potentially trying to flip him away from Oregon, which would be another great flip as they were able to flip both Tom Tapui and Jonas Williams last year from Oregon. If they can keep Danny Lang and Honor Falave Johnson away from Oregon and flip someone like a Drew Fielder, I mean, it just speaks volumes to the change in recruiting and change in recruiting strategy that USC, Lincoln Riley, and Chad Bowden have implemented here over the course of the last 365 days. So those were kind of the big ones. There's other guys that were out here. It was a pretty loaded visitor list. As we said, there's going to be a lot more this weekend on campus, which I talked about last night. You can see that video right here on the USC LAFB channel, so check that out. But Booby Feaster was here today. Obviously not a recruit. He's already committed, already signed. He'll be here in the summer, but good to see him walk out with Dennis Simmons. And, he's, as I've talked about last night, he's already, fully up to speed kind of in the playbook and doing all the mental reps. And so it'll just be him playing a little catch up in the summer, but that's what Tinnock Hines did last year. And he was just fine and won that wide receiver 3 job as a true freshman. So, not too worried about Booby Feaster, but it is a loaded room, loaded receiver room. So he will have to play some catch up to the likes of, Caden Dixon Wyatt and Luke Weaver and some of those other guys on the outside, as Trent Mosley is your inside guy. But yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of the updates. I have a thread up on LAFBnetwork.com that has everything from today. Got our what we saw and heard video, got our Lincoln Riley interview video. I got some other singular videos of guys walking out and some practice videos in there. Plus, this will be up there as well. So if you want everything in one place, LFBnetwork.com, go to our forums. You can see it on the USC Trojans forum. Real easy to find. Yeah, drop your comments below as we head into the weekend. It's a great first week of spring camp. Great seeing some football in the air. Great hearing some pads pop and see some great visitors excited about where this program is. I feel like I say this every year, the positive excitement around the program, like you can feel the build. It does feel different this year, right? Like last year was like, okay, after a really disappointing 6-6 regular season, you have some recruiting momentum at that point going into the spring. It wasn't what it was like now, but you had some momentum building. Chad Bowden had been hired. Rob Ryan had been hired. You had the return of Danton Lynn. So there was like, okay, it was a rough season, but we saw growth. We saw improvement. We saw that we can, compete in the Big Ten and we're getting some bigger bodies on campus. What is this season really going to be? There's a lot of question marks last year. Like, what will 2025 truly be? There's excitement, but there's also guarded excitement. This year, there's like, all right, we saw massive improvement last year, 9-3 regular season. Number 1 recruiting class in college football. Gary Patterson on campus, defensive mind, Paul Gonzalez, Sam Carter, Mike Ekeler, all these new hires. 32 of the 35 freshmen on campus already. A solid strategic portal class, no spring portal window we have to worry about at all. So now we can just focus on ball moving forward. Like there is a very clear, not just excitement, but confidence around this program, knowing that, hey, this is the season to put it all together. And youth be damned. We've got enough veteran presence on this roster, plus infused with talented youth to really take this thing to the next level and go out and win 10 plus games and make a college football playoff run. So you can feel it. It is a different feeling than last year. I always say it feels good, feels positive. Like, I'm not saying that it didn't feel like that, but there's a different aura of confidence this spring than there has been in springs past. So, yeah, have a great weekend. I've got USC content for you all weekend, so we're not going anywhere. But I'll be back on campus next week as we go into week 2 of spring camp. Appreciate you, family. Hit that like and subscribe. Got everything USC for you daily right here on the USC LAFB YouTube channel. So let's keep this thing rolling. As always, family, fight on.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.